Discover 3 spine-chilling true stories of cursed pit stops, unexplained horrors revealed. Linda's worn-out heart raced as she wound her way through the quiet streets of her suburban town, fatigue clinging to her like a heavy fog. It was well past midnight, and every creak and bump of the car seemed amplified against the stillness of the night. Outside, the dim streetlights flickered like ghosts, reminding her of all the fears that slinked in the shadows, fears that were now a little closer. With every mile, thoughts of her children tugged at her, urging her to seek comfort in the warmth of home. But as she turned onto the cracked pavement of Main Street, something pulled her attention. An old gas station shimmered into view, its neon lights flickering a morbid glow. "Open 24/7, we're always here for you," the sign promised in a mocking tone. It stood as a testament to years gone by, a ghost of a time when life was slower and seemingly safer. But whispers floated among locals, they said it was cursed. Linda dismissed the tales as folklore, remnants of the town's superstitions. But even as she pulled in, a chill crawled up her spine. The night around her thickened, wrapping her in an unsettling embrace. Trembling limbs failed her as she stepped out into the damp chill. A tall man with a just too wide grin greeted her at the entrance, as if they were long-lost friends. "Ah, Linda. What a delight. I've been expecting you," he crooned, his voice gliding on the air with an eerie familiarity. Her skin prickled as she processed it. How did he know her name? For a moment, she hesitated, a primal instinct urging her to flee, but exhaustion dulled her senses. It was just the fatigue, she reassured herself. Inside, shadows danced menacingly in the corners, the air thick with the smell of must and disuse. The walls were marred with faded newspaper clippings, grotesque tales of disappearances and unexplainable events screamed from the lamination. Linda's heart quickened, an unshakable fear settling in her chest. The clock ticked louder, each second hammering a drum of urgency in her mind. "Help me." He*s watching. Scratched into the restroom wall sent ice racing through her veins. Panic gripped her, and she reached for her phone, only to be met with a black screen, cold and lifeless. A thunderstorm raged outside, wind pounding against the glass like desperate fists. Suddenly, the fluorescent lights flickered and died, plunging her into a chilling darkness. Now, don't be scared," whispered the manager, his form emerging from the dreary shadows. His voice held an unsettling softness. "You must see it for yourself, Linda. This place has secrets, and you're just the guest I've been waiting for." Adrenaline shot through her, every instinct screaming at her to run. The pounding rain outside morphed into a wall of sound, drowning out her thoughts. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The door slammed shut behind her, reverberating through the stillness. "No one can save you here, dear. Not even the ones you trust," he crooned, now stepping closer, the glint of something darker flashing in his eyes. The shadows stretched out, revealing faces of the lost and forgotten. Linda realized the truth: the stories were more than just whispers. They were warnings, and she was about to uncover a fate darker than she could fathom. The air thickened with tension, and a question clung to the edges of her mind: how did this turn from a pit stop to a deadly trap? Time twisted around her, each second a desperate plea for escape, the door to freedom now an unyielding barrier. The stories of the cursed place would soon transform into a living nightmare, with her as the unwilling lead in a tale far more sinister than she had ever imagined. The shadows trembled, shifting closer as Linda's pulse quickened. Every instinct screamed at her to break free, but the relentless gloom clung to her like tar, suffocating her will to leap into the storm outside. She caught a glimpse of the man's smile, broad yet twisted, inviting yet terrifying. "Come closer," he beckoned playfully, his fingers curling in an almost hypnotic manner. "I promise you won't regret it." "Not yet, anyway." Her breath hitched in her throat. He tilted his head, the soft glow of his smile illuminated just enough to reveal a row of uneven teeth, a missing tooth mingling oddly with a macabre grin. "The night is young, Linda. Very young." With every step he took towards her, time seemed to stretch, and a sickening dread filled her. The air shuddered as if alive, vibrating with the weight of secrets too heavy to bear. She fought against the numbness. She knew she had to act fast. "Where's the exit?" she rasped, somehow finding her voice, strained yet defiant. The man chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that echoed eerily in the barren room. "Oh, the exit? It's right there if you want to leave so terribly." He pointed towards the door, and for a moment, hope sparked in her chest. But it quickly flickered out as she realized the yawning void behind it, the storm outside ferociously mixing with an unseen terror. The manager chuckled again, but this time it was deeper, cruel. "You see, Linda, outside is far worse than what lies in here. Did you not read the stories? Those who venture beyond these walls will become part of them." A chill crawled up her spine anew. She felt the thrill of panic rise, and her heart thumped violently against her ribcage. She glanced back, the flickering neon lights casting distorted illusions on nothing. The stories were no longer mere tales, they were warnings etched in the fabric of this cursed station. "The faces on the walls," she murmured, realization dawning in her foggy mind. They were visitors, weren't they? "Clever girl," he praised, eyes glinting with malicious delight. Each one looked for help. They all thought they could outsmart a simple gas station. "But the truth is this place is hungry, Linda. And you've been invited to dinner." The sinister weight of his words embraced her like a noose. Dread seeped into every crevice of her mind, and she found herself longing for the simple thrill of driving home. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, whispering stories of horror that had played out before her. "No, no, no." She pressed her palm against her forehead, as if she could squeeze out the panic, the urgency. The stalling terror began to take hold of her, sweat pooled at the base of her neck as she whispered, "I will not be part of this." Gradually, she stepped back, preparing for a sprint. "Do you truly think you can escape me?" He laughed, the sound booming through the gas station like a pastiche of lost souls. "The pit stop promises you freedom, but instead, it feeds. And the more you fight, the stronger you make the hunger." Then, the air shifted. Shadows converged with a sinister intent, awakenings within the dark, voices rising like specters. A flurry of distorted faces twisted in anguish emerged, pressing closer, glaring, mouths open in silent screams. Linda stumbled, horrified by the visible despair of those lost. Their eyes, once pleading, now glared at her with a mixture of sorrow and rage. "Linda," one ethereal whisper echoed from the crowd of tormentors, longing stretching out, echoing despair. "You've come to join us, Haven Tu?" Desperation surged through her. With one last glance at the manager, she turned, pounding towards the door, each step heavier than the last as the weight of unseen hands tried to pull her back. "Not so fast." The voice thundered, and suddenly, she felt a cold breath against her neck, freezing her in place. In that haunting instant, she understood the truth: the curse wasn't merely a tale. It was a living nightmare, with tangled roots burrowing deep into her reality. And things were only just beginning. What awaited her on the other side of the door? Would she escape, or was she already too far gone? The storm outside roared, answering with a thunderous challenge. Linda's heart raced as she stood paralyzed, the cold breath lingering, chilling her to the bone. The darkness around her pulsed, a living thing, and she could feel the shadows creeping in, hungry for her spirit. With a sudden resolve, she flung herself forward, reaching for the door. Her fingers brushed the cool metal handle, but before she could turn it, a wave of despair crashed over her, as if ephemeral hands were attempting to anchor her to the ground. She gasped, struggling against the forces pulling her back, the distorted faces of the damned inching closer, their silent screams filling her ears. "No! I want to stay." As she yanked the door open, a gust of wind rushed in, whipping her hair across her face. The rain outside hammered down, each drop a tiny dagger against her skin. The storm raged, but behind her, the darkness was relentless. She felt it clawing at her heels as she stepped over the threshold into the storm. Rain stung her eyes, and the howling winds drowned her thoughts. She dashed into the night, her only focus on survival, each footfall drowned out by nature's wrath. But even with the chaos surrounding her, she felt the darkness trailing just beyond the threshold. It was free and so was she. But her escape wasn't without cost. Haunting whispers swirled in the air around her, an echo of the past, voices of those who hadn't been fortunate enough to leave. "Linda! Come back!" They called, an anguished chorus that cut through the wind, freezing her in her tracks. She stumbled, her resolve dimming. The grotesque faces she had seen displayed behind the gas station's walls flashed through her mind. Each one had been a promise of help that twisted into a masterful trap. She had just become another chapter in their mournful story. "No! Keep running!" Linda screamed at herself, pushing onward, the storm seemingly amplifying her frantic pace. She could feel the damp air thickening around her, almost suffocating. The weight of the shadows loomed heavier behind her, pressing on her shoulders. Instinct burned within her, she must survive. But with every stride, the ground beneath her felt unstable. It wasn't solid anymore, it shifted like the gas station, alive with malice. Her foot landed awkwardly, and she twisted her ankle, a sharp pain shooting through her leg. She fell to her knees, the gravel digging into her skin. Panic surged as the truth settled over her like a fog. This storm, this land, all of it felt wrong. The shadows had followed her, no longer restrained by walls. She glanced back and saw a darkness swelling, a mass of undulating blackness rolling towards her. It had taken form, an amorphous creature, its many eyes blinking into existence through the night. "Linda!" A voice like thunder boomed, resonating deep within her chest, drowning out the storm. "You can't leave. You're bound to us." She scrambled backward, breathless and raw, heart pounding like a drum. The more she looked at the advancing shadows, the more familiar they seemed, the faces twisted in rage, sorrow, and hunger. "No! I'll outrun you all!" she shouted, pulling herself upright despite the pain. Pushing off the ground, she began to run again, thoughts racing. She had to find safety, a light, a refuge, anywhere but here. The night itself felt like a predator, closing in, taunting her escape. But as she ran, reality warped. She could feel the boundaries of her surroundings shifting, turning very ground into something unnatural, unreal. Was it the storm? Or the gas station pulling her back in? With every step, desperation clawed at her soul, and she could hear them whispering again, more desperate, more frantic. "You will never be free then." Silence crashed down suddenly, and for a brief moment, she thought she could breathe. Hope flickered like a candle's last flame. But what lay in that silence? That first breath she took might not be her last. She slowed, feeling the world align against her. Was there truly no escape? What awaited her was worse than the storm. She paused, squinting through the gloom where shadows twisted like smoke. "Linda!" The shadows shifted, a figure emerging. It was him. The manager, backlit by an unnatural glow that cast everything else into deep shadow. "Come back," he purred, the sinister hunger in his voice palpable. The storm hadn't howled, it silenced, as she braced for the confrontation she had tried to outrun. Would she face him? Or was her journey just beginning? The manager stepped forward, an unsettling grin stretching across his face. The shadows pulsated with him, wrapping around his legs like dark mist. "Linda, you shouldn't have run," he said, voice dripping with the kind of sweetness that made her skin crawl. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." Desperation clawed at her throat. I don't want anything from you. I want to leave." Her voice trembled, betraying the confidence she tried so desperately to project. "Leave? There's no leaving once you've entered," he said smoothly, inching closer. The glow around him flickered like dying fire, revealing the raw edges of his shadowed form. "You think running will save you?" The others tried that too. The air thickened like smoke, each breath a struggle as his words wrapped around her, tightening. The faces she had seen before twisted in her memory, tortured souls imprisoned but never truly forgotten. Each had dared to escape, only to become part of the darkness. "Stay with me, Linda. We can have such fun together," he crooned, laughter escaping his lips like the sound of broken glass. With every beat of her heart, Linda felt the pull of his voice, a dark melody that beckoned her back into despair. The shadows behind him danced, morphing into distorted figures reaching for her with a desperate hunger. "No!" she gasped, shaking her head furiously. Panic surged within. She turned, forcing her legs to propel her forward. She had no time to waste, the walls around her seemed to inhale, ready to swallow her whole. But the ground shifted beneath her feet, betraying her. The moment she landed, it felt like quicksand, tugging and pulling, eager to draw her down into its depths. She fought against it, but every movement felt like wading through a pool of darkness. "Run all you want," he shouted, the joy in his voice turning into a terrifying roar. "You're already ours." Linda's spine tingled with a cold, paralyzing fear. Every ounce of strength mustered within her, she wrenched herself free from the clutches of the earth. She could see the outline of trees ahead, their branches swaying violently in the storm. Limping, she stumbled towards them. Hope flickered, she could reach the safety of the woods. Maybe there was a chance to camouflage among the shadows of reality, the memories of those damned ground fading behind her. But as she neared, the darkness surged forward again, bounding towards her with unnatural speed. It was no longer just shadows, limbs reached out, grasping hands that scrabbled desperately at her clothes. Tears filled her eyes as she cried out, the grip of guilt and fear strangling her. The faces emerged, pleading and wrathful, all merging into one. "Help us!" they screamed in unison, a cacophony that shattered her resolve. "Don't leave us behind." Linda stumbled, frozen in the grip of their desperate cries, each word a shard piercing through her. Wasn't she running for freedom? But here, they clung to her lost souls seeking release. In a single heartbeat, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the rain-slicked stone, eyes wide, hollow, filled with the same despair she saw in them. Terrified, she turned back, meeting the manager's gaze. "Join us, Linda, embrace your fate." He beckoned, shadows swirling around him, eager and hungry. With a frantic gasp, she spun toward the trees, abandoning the echoing cries that clung to her heart like fog. Heart pounding, she thrust herself forward into the trees, branches clawing at her skin. The darkness followed, relentless and wild. As she tore through, the air thickened, transforming chaos into suffocating silence. But the branches closed in, thickening around her, wrapping her tighter with each step. What was pushing her? Was it real or just the remnants of an unfolding nightmare? And then, a glimmer caught her eye through the mass of shadows. A faint light, pulsing, barely visible but promising something. Safety? Or more horror? Linda surged toward it, ignoring the way the shadows spat and twisted in fury behind her. The pulsing grew stronger, but so did the shadow tide. Could she really reach it? Before it was too late? The light beckoned, a soft whisper of hope in an ocean of despair. But was she blind to the dangers lurking there? In her haste, she pushed deeper into the darkness, not knowing if the exit led to salvation or to the very depths of hell itself. The conversation with fate was far from over. Linda pushed herself forward, arms thrusting through the thick branches, each scratch a reminder of the looming darkness stalking her. She was running blind, not knowing if the light ahead was a beacon or a snare. The air grew heavier, and with each step, whispers slithered through the leaves. "Turn back, it's not safe," they hissed, 1,000 voices echoing within the woods. A shiver crawled down her spine, each word wrapping around her like an icy grip. But the light pulsated, offering warmth in a cold, unforgiving world. She didn't stop. Every instinct screamed at her to flee. If those pleading faces wanted to keep her trapped, she would outsmart them. One more push, one more surge through the branches, and she would find out what lay ahead. Finally, she burst into a clearing. The light danced brighter, bathing her in a ghostly glow. It flickered like a candle caught in the wind, setting the atmosphere alive with strange energies. Stumbling, she gazed at the source, a gnarled tree with luminous veins, streaming light into the darkened air. "Welcome," it whispered, a voice unique and older than the forest itself. Linda felt an involuntary urge to move closer. The pulsing light enveloped her, igniting hope and despair in equal measure. But wait. Was it truly welcoming her, or was it another trap like the shadows? She staggered, grappling with dread. Her heart hammered as she fought to contain her racing breath. "Linda, Linda," the voice echoed, winding around her with a familiar lilt. It was the manager's voice, only softened and more inviting, as if offering some twisted refuge within its embrace. "No!" she yelled, shaking her head violently. "You can't have me." She could feel the shadows gathering just at the edges of the clearing, shifting and coiling like snakes about to strike. "Don't you see?" the tree whispered soothingly, branches stretching toward her in a twisted form of allure. "The darkness offers truth. Safety. Join them, and you will never be alone." With frantic steps backward, the weight of her decision hung heavy. Did she trust this twisted light? Did she trust that it wouldn't consume her the way the shadows threatened? Suddenly, an urgent cry shattered the moment. A figure emerged from the woods behind her, crashing into the clearing. It was someone she recognized, one of the tortured faces she had seen earlier, now corporeal and limping towards her. Fear and desperation contorted its features, but it wasn't the manager this time. This one looked like it had fought its way to her. "Don't listen!" it screamed, voice ragged. "The light is a deception. It's worse than the shadows." Linda's heart sank. The words echoed in her mind. What if they've all been lying to me? Just then, the manager's laughter echoed from deep within the woods, a sound that layered shadows upon shadows. "It's too late, Linda. You've already chosen." Her pulse raced. Were the souls trapped in eternal torment? Or could they be saved? With each second, the fear in her chest tightened its grip, and the decision before her squeezed the breath from her lungs. The figures shifted, shadows creeping closer again. Linda glanced back at the glowing tree, then at the pleading face before her. "Lisa!" she shouted. "What do I do?" But Lisa's answer was lost in the rising wind that filled the clearing, whispering chaos and confusion. One single command rang out clear among the tempest, the haunting call of the manager's voice insisting, "Join us." Which path would she take? The lies entwined in darkness or the elegance of the blinding light? The climax of her choices loomed before her like the edge of a cliff. Before she could decide, the light flickered violently, an ominous shudder coursing through its form. Would she leap into the unknown or claim her ground against the darkness? The air crackled as if waiting for her answer. Linda felt her heartbeat in her throat, each pulse a countdown to disaster. The flickering light danced violently, threatening to extinguish. She didn't know whether to step back or throw herself toward it. That's when the ground trembled beneath her. "Run!" Lisa shrieked, her voice piercing through the maelstrom. The urgency ignited something primal within Linda. If she was to escape, it had to be now. Spinning, Linda dashed back into the forest, branches clawing at her arms, pulling her deeper into the chaos. The darkness roared behind her, a visceral beast hungry for her despair. Every whisper, every twisted plea pushed her faster into the night. "Why can't I escape?" she gasped, fear clamping down like a vice. The air was thick, and each breath tasted of decay. It choked her, it was suffocating. The world around her transformed into a blur of shadows, the shapes pulsating like the heart of some malevolent creature watching her. Eyes. She felt them. All around her, hidden in the dark, waiting for a falter. "Linda!" A voice broke through the murky silence like glass shattering. The manager stood at the edge of the clearing, illuminated by that cursed light. His smile was a grotesque mask, twisted with perverse delight. "You can't run from your destiny. The forest chooses. Join us." The shadows writhed, shifting to form tortured faces. They were lost souls, mouths agape, echoing a desperate warning that clawed at her sanity. "Help us! Help us!" they cried, a cacophony of despair tugging at her soul. "No!" Linda screamed, the word laced with her terror, a raw plea for self-preservation. She sprinted harder, her legs burning, echoing the panic that sank into her bones. As she twisted through the trees, the whispers grew louder, drowning the world in dark promises. Turn back, they hissed, a relentless chorus in her mind. Each step shot electric pain through her, a reminder that the forest was alive and watching. Forward she pushed, her vision narrowing, teetering on the brink of hysteria. But ahead, a dim light broke through a dull glow that felt more tangible than the terrified wilderness behind her. With a last burst of hope, she lunged towards it. It was another clearing, but this one felt different, calmer, quieter. The light flickered softly, not an ominous blaze, but a gentle gleam tinged with melancholy. A shadow in the corner flickered as if acknowledging her arrival. "What is this place?" she gasped, heart racing, mind spinning. "There is no safety here," the shadow murmured, voice soft yet heavy, vibrating with truths unspoken. "You only find fragments of what was lost." "Who are you?" Linda stammered, moving closer, drawn by the soothing glow. "Another lost soul," the shadow replied, sadness lacing the words. "You've followed the wrong path. They're deceiving you." With a rush of anger and fear, Linda shook her head. "No. I want to escape. I don't belong here." But the shadow loomed closer, revealing a face she almost recognized, one of the tortured souls she saw in the clearing. "You can't escape, you've become part of the forest now. The choices you make tie you to it." Panic rose again as she stumbled back. The darkness was creeping in, wrapping around her like a shroud. Heart pounding violently, her mind raced. How did she fight a curse? Was there truly no escape? Just then, the wind picked up, howling mournfully through the trees, and the tree behind her whispered once more. "You can't hide from the truth forever." Linda felt the weight of despair hanging upon her shoulders, and she suddenly understood the light could either guide her to salvation or seal her fate forever. The shadows around her pulsed, hungry. And so did that elusive light. Which would it be? The truth or the embrace of eternal darkness? The darkness surged forward, closing in like a wave. The shadows collided into her like a storm, wrapping around Linda, thick and suffocating. She fought against it, but the darkness pressed closer, a living entity hungry for her fear. She closed her eyes tightly, wishing for the light to burn them away. A scream bubbled in her throat, desperate to escape, but no sound came out. "Choose." The whisper was insistent, echoing. "The light or the dark?" Linda's eyes flew open. The glow flickered softly, an inviting beacon amidst the gnashing teeth of the night. Could it save her, or would it consume her? The thought twisted like a knife in her gut. She felt the pulse of her own heartbeat. Time seemed to slow. With trembling hands, she reached out toward the flickering light. It felt as if the very fabric of the air shimmered, welcoming her or warning her. The shadows sneered from the edge of the clearing, twisting into dreadful faces, their mouths opening in silent screams. "Don't!" they pleaded, but their words were lost in the wind. "Shut up!" it erupted from her as she took a step toward the light. "I want to listen to you." She could feel the crackling energy of the light wrap around her, a warm embrace lifting the chill that snaked down her spine. Yet the darkness snarled, pulling at her limbs, demanding her attention. "Join us, Linda. Join us," it moaned. "No!" she shouted defiantly. "I want to be free." Just as she collided fully with the light, a blinding radiance enveloped her. Her entire being felt electric, tingling with a wild energy that both thrilled and terrified her. It pushed against the shadows, and for a moment, she felt the grip of the night loosen. But then came the screams surrounding her, the tortured souls she'd been warned about, their voices choking the air. "Flee while you can." They reached out, their hands stretching like vines, desperate. "Why?" Linda gasped, looking around, her heart racing, out of control. "What do you want from me?" "Your strength," the shadow whispered, pulling back, revealing more of its grotesque form. "You have pure fear. We need it to survive. Why should I help you?" She spat, her voice trembling with rage and fear. But there was a flicker of doubt. What if they were right? What if the forest was her true home? The light shimmered again, more demanding, urging her on. "Because you belong to us." The shadows shrieked, rising like a tide, drowning her in their chorus. Suddenly, something shifted in the air, a chill that cut deeper than the darkness. The trees around her creaked ominously, and the ground trembled once more, sending vibrations through her feet. Clouds rolled overhead, dark and roiling, amplifying her terror. Linda, the name dripped from the shadows, elongated and mocking. "You're just another piece in our game." She felt lightheaded, the pulsing energy draining her. The decision loomed like an executioner's axe. To stay and fight, to confront whatever game they played, or run, leaving everything behind, including herself. I can't," she mumbled, terror gripping her heart. Before she could form another thought, the shadow lunged, extending a twisted hand toward her, its claws sharp as knives. The light flickered violently, caught in a struggle as souls pulled against it, gnashing and howling. Somewhere behind her, the first signs of dawn broke through the distance, a faint glow challenging the darkness. But now she could feel the weight of the forest pressing down, every branch and root conspiring against her. "Choose!" they cried one last time, their voices merging into a grotesque harmony. Linda's breath hitched. Would she find a way to escape, or would she surrender her fate to the forest, intertwined with the lost souls forever? Her mind raced, conclusions crashing together like fallen leaves in a storm. As darkness closed in, Linda stood at a precipice of terror. The final moment was upon her. She had to decide, would she embrace the light of uncertain salvation or be devoured by the insatiable dark? The moment her feet connected with the ground, the light seemed to pulse, flooding her senses and sending a jolt through her core. But it was too late for hesitation. The darkness screamed, a cacophony of anguish and fury, as 11 devouring claws reached for her with relentless hunger. "No!" Linda shrieked, throwing herself forward, towards the welcoming warmth radiating like the sun breaking through a heavy storm. But just before she reached the halo of illumination, the shadows recoiled, shifting with a brute force that rattled her bones. The gleaming light flickered dangerously, waning like the last breath of an exhausted soul. She could feel the tug of despair, the weight of the shadows dragging her down, their breath hot and foul against her skin. "Join us!" they snarled, the voices contorting into countless shrieks. "You can't resist what you are." With each step, the specter of doubt wrapped tightly around her heart. What were the souls in the light so desperately trying to escape? Were they trying to save her, or were they all just tethered to this sinister game? As she stumbled, limbs heavy and mind clouded, a flash of clarity shot through her. She realized the light was a fragile barrier. Despite its beauty, it was only a thin veil against the surrounding force of darkness hungry for her terror. She could turn away from it, flee through the trees like a coward, but the shadows would still haunt her dreams, gnawing at her sanity. Choose. A voice whispered, alluring yet terrifying. A vision burst in her mind, screams, panic, desperation. These were the echoes of lives lost within this cursed forest. Linda saw fleeting images of her own face amongst them, eyes wide with horror, set against the backdrop of endless night. They were battling with every ounce of their energy, and all she had to do was succumb, give in to them. Wavering, she heard the wind pick up, throwing its chilling breath across her skin, speaking cryptic secrets. She felt a primal urge to fight, to tear herself from the shadows entangled around her feet. Fight! She rasped. I won't give in. With a final Herculean effort, she threw herself toward the blazing light, and as her fingers grazed its edge, it exploded with heat, showering her in radiance. For a heartbeat, she was the being she longed to be, alive, untethered, and free. But then darkness clutched her heart. From the depths of the cacophony surrounding her, a piercing scream erupted. You think you can break away? You're part of us, Linda. She fell back, gasping, the surrounding forest shaking. The ground split open, black tendrils of earth reaching for her ankles, thirsting for her fear. The light dimmed as despair crowded her thoughts. She felt herself being anchored, pulled back toward the chaos swirling behind her. Let go! A voice from the light cried, a glimmer of hope cutting through the darkness. It was her mother, long gone but alive in this moment, her image glowing with warmth and love. Choose! Came the shadow's sinister chant, a deceptive lullaby promising sweet relief through surrender. Torn between her beloved mother's face and the hissing darkness that beckoned, Linda gripped her fists. She could feel her pulse racing, the rush of emotions nearly overwhelming. It was as if each heartbeat was a spark of fire within her, pushing back against the darkness, each call for her name more personal now, more desperate. The trees groaned around her, branches creeping closer, looming overhead like looming giants. Linda, they whispered in unison, pulling at her consciousness like ersatz lovers. Each whisper pulled at her resolve, 1,000 lifetimes of regret begging for release. The dawning light behind her flickered, threatening to go out. Linda had only moments left to decide her fate. Choose, she breathed, the weight of the word crashing around her as if it were a stone thrown into a still pond, rippling outward in waves of dread. Could she bear the darkness forever? As the shadows lunged, she made a desperate choice, reaching for the light's warmth one last time. But a hand slipped through her grasp as she reached for what she desperately craved. What awaited her, she realized too late, may not be the end but rather a far more treacherous beginning. Would she find the strength to break the cycle of horror, or would she become just another lost soul hidden amongst the trees, forever trapped in a nightmare of her own making? Linda felt the weight of swirling darkness closing in around her. 1,000 hands grasped for her, their cold grip tightening as if trying to pull her back into an abyss. Panic surged within her, turning her blood to ice. The warmth of her mother's voice, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a cruel taunt. No! She gasped, scrambling on her hands and knees toward the flickering light, which seemed to shimmer just out of reach. The whispers morphed into frantic screams, the words twisting like knives in her mind. You belong with us. You are one of us. With every ounce of willpower, she fought against the sucking force of the shadows, her heart racing as they inched closer, pulling her back. She could feel their icy breath on her neck, could almost taste the despair that oozed from their forms. Suddenly, the light pulsed brighter, sparking a flicker of resolve in her chest. Fight! She shouted, her voice echoing in the hollow void. I refuse to be yours. Churning her limbs like they were lead, she pushed forward, teeth gritted against the sheer terror of what lay behind her. All at once, the forest around her erupted in an agonized wail, branches snapping, ground quaking. "Help us! We are lost!" Echoed through the night, the cries of the forsaken intertwining with the growls of the hungry shadows. Their desperation seeped into her bones, rattling her composure. She stumbled, her fingers clawing at the dirt, trying to grab hold of anything solid. The earth crumbled beneath her, shifting like quicksand, devouring her resolve. "You don't belong here," came a voice like ice, sending shudders down her spine. Linda blinked, her vision a swirling maelstrom of shadow and light. She turned her head sharply, catching sight of a figure emerging from the darkness, a silhouette that sent tendrils of dread spiraling through her veins. It was her mother, but different, a reflection twisted by despair, her eyes glimmering with an eerie light. "Mom?" Linda choked out, knowing deep down that something was very wrong. "Help me, Linda." The figure pleaded, but the voice was tainted, corrupted. "We need you here for all time." A chill ran through her, and for a split second, Linda felt tempted, swayed by the frightening comfort of acceptance and belonging. But the shadows lurked behind, whispering promises laced with lies. "You could join them, release yourself from this wretched life." "No. I want tea," she screamed, her throat raw. With a powerful shove, she lunged for the light again, as it flickered one last time. Linda broke through the radiant barrier, and the world shifted violently as the dark screams erupted behind her. In an instant, she was enveloped in warmth, a cocoon of peace. But she felt it immediately. It was fleeting. An echo of satisfaction that felt wrong, as if she stepped into a lie. The light quivered, dimming as if aware of her uncertainty. I'm safe," she murmured to herself, but deep down, despair clawed at her heart. What if this safety was just another containment, another prison? The realization sank in like a stone. Then, in an instant, the light extinguished. Shadows crept around her, and she stood alone once more. "Welcome back," a soft voice came from behind. Linda turned. The darkness shifted, forming pale, twisted faces that flickered with recognition, and she gasped as she caught sight of familiar figures, remnants of those she once loved, now trapped in a haunting abyss. "Join us," they whispered, longing laced with hopelessness, pulling at her heart as terrifying laughter echoed around her. A sickening realization washed over her. Escape would not be so easy, nor would it be without cost. Could she save them, or was her own fate already sealed? The balance teetered as Linda stood at the edge of oblivion once more, the shadows waiting like ravenous wolves. What layers of horror would reveal themselves in her desperate fight? What secrets lingered just beyond the veil? As the darkness closed in, she knew it was only the beginning. A sharp pain erupted in Linda's chest, an overwhelming sense of dread pouring over her like cold water. The faces around her twisted in agony, shadows of a life lived but lost. Each one bore witness to a choice made long before her arrival, a choice that had entrapped them forever. "No!" she cried, backing away, staring into those hollow eyes filled with sorrow and longing. "I won't succumb to this." From deep within, she summoned every ounce of strength, a flicker of defiance igniting in the pit of her stomach. "Fight!" whispered a voice, a faint echo barely reaching past the screams, urging her on. "Don't let the darkness take you." Desperation clawed at her mind, and a sudden resolve gripped her. Linda clenched her fists until her knuckles turned white, heart pounding fiercely. "I refuse to be just another face among the damned." The ground trembled beneath her as she propelled herself forward, racing through the shadows that clawed at her limbs. Each step felt heavy, every whisper promising her an end to the fight. But she could still feel the remnants of hope, a light pulsing deep within her. With every ounce of conviction, she ran past the faces of the lost, watching as they reached out in agonized despair. "Please, don't leave us," they wailed, their voices layered with anguish. She stumbled but didn't stop. "Please." Tears streamed from her eyes, the warmth of her soul igniting in the midst of the cold darkness. "I won't forget you. I'll fight for you. But I can't remain." Linda could feel the tendrils of the shadows trying to latch onto her, attempting to anchor her within the forest. She remembered the gas station, the cursed stories, and the manager's sinister grin. This ends now. With a primal scream that tore from her throat, she turned and sprinted towards the flickering light, which burned as fiercely as her will. The dark tendrils lashed out, snapping at her heels, furious at her refusal to submit. But she wouldn't look back. As she barreled into the light, a surge of warmth enveloped her. Each breath revived her spirit, a balm against the tug of despair. And as she felt the light cocoon her, she caught a glimpse of the darkness swirling around the edges, screaming in a cacophony of rage. Suddenly, the soft glow expanded, and her surroundings shifted. Instead of being consumed by darkness, she found herself in a vast meadow that sparkled under the rising sun. Flowers bloomed fiercely in color, the air heavy with the scent of jasmine. But terror still lingered around her heart. What if this was just the calm before the storm? Though she burst forth into joy, bitter remnants of the curse remained etched into her being. "Am I free?" she breathed, glancing around. "Someone always pays," whispered an echo from deep within the shadows of her mind. "Your escape comes at a price." Suddenly, the ground shook violently beneath her, dark fissures splitting open as shadows clawed their way into her vision, clawing at her ankles. It was the tortured souls, still reaching, still begging for liberation. "Help us!" they cried, their voices merging into a haunting melody that chilled her soul. Linda spun around in turmoil, feeling the weight of their torment. She had chosen her path, her will had wrought freedom for herself, but at what cost? Could she truly abandon those who had suffered where she once nearly fell prey? "No! I won't leave you behind," she shouted, propelled by a fierce determination. "I'll save you." With newfound strength, Linda sprinted back toward the darkness, where the swirling shadows danced like furious flames. She reached out her hands, ready to embrace their pain, ready to break the chains that held them bound. They surged towards her, faces of despair merging into one dark mass. "Join us!" they cried, their voices merging into one powerful entity. "You can't bear the burden alone. I can!" she boomed back, her voice lit with fury and compassion. "You are not lost, you're still here. We can fight together." In that moment, the shadows faltered, an opening forming in their ranks. The air thickened with electric energy, and a flash of clarity ignited within Linda. The light of hope pulsed around her, a vibrant beacon against the encroaching darkness. As if compelled by her fierce heart, the light surged higher, washing over the shadows that had once threatened to consume her. She realized together they could stand against the tide, a force of newfound strength to contend with the cursed chains binding the damned. The shadows recoiled, their anguished faces shifting in fear. "No! This can't be!" they screeched, as the light enveloped Linda completely. She felt the love of those she'd lost pooling within her, igniting her resolve. The shadows could no longer pull her back, their grip slipped as the brightness grew. "Join me!" she cried, her voice ringing out with resounding hope. "We'll be free together. We will not stay in this darkness one more day." In a magnificent burst, the shadows writhed and twisted, caught within the radiance that radiated from Linda. The souls around her surged forward, joining her battle against the consuming night. Together, they broke free of the ghostly chains that had bound them. The forest trembled, the darkness shattered as a radiant warmth filled the space. In that moment, light erupted like fireworks, illuminating every tortured soul who had ever entered the cursed domain, each one breaking free from their eternal prison. As the sun began to rise, hope poured into their veins. Linda felt an indescribable connection with each soul, a recognition that they were forever intertwined. She had fought not just for her freedom but for the freedom of those she had come to know, and they had found strength together. And just like that, the cursed haunted gas station was no more. The whispers faded into the morning air, never to torment another lonely traveler again. Together, they stepped into the warmth of dawn, each soul carrying a piece of light as they ventured forward toward infinite possibilities. As the sun bathed them in golden rays, Linda turned to the others. "We're free," she said with a smile, feeling the joy swell in her heart. But deep within, she understood, every choice mattered. Each moment, a ripple in the journey of life. It wasn't just about escaping, it was about living, loving, and finding light even in the darkest of places. So with her heart full and spirits high, she took the first step into the new day, knowing she wasn't just escaping. She was truly alive. Now, if you loved this spine-chilling conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to make sure you never miss another haunting tale like this. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us know your deepest reactions in the comments. Remember, we thrive on your theories and hopes. And don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who you know need to feel this spark of hope and despair alongside you. Join us in this journey and support the channel. Only true fans understand the importance of these actions. Let us build this community together.